right? And we're also admitting our mistakes. Because, in reference to Hashem, what is our relationship to Hashem, right? So we think of Hashem basically when we want something, or when we want to be grateful, or when we want to, previous times your internet was great. So, So we were saying, Tov leodot laHashem, lagid baboker chazdecha ve'emunatcha baleilot. It is good to thank Hashem, to tell of His glory, of His chesed in the morning, in the day, and to talk of His believing in Him, in our faith of our faith in Him at night. So day is always symbolic. Whenever we read about day, about daylight in the Holy Scripts, in the Torah, we refer to what we call gadlut mochin. We refer to like brightness of the thought, like when we see Hashem basically. And darkness is when we don't see Hashem, right? It's regardless of whether it's day or, night in physical time. But it's a spiritual concept, right? Is my thought lit up, or is my thought darkened by negative thoughts, right? So I could be having nothing, and I could be having Hashem so much present in my life, right? Everything seems like a turmoil. Everything seems like it's going crazy and I have no control over nothing. God forbid, my money, my health, my this, my that, right? But I just feel Hashem so strongly. The brightness of the thought takes over so strongly. And then I could be having so much more in my life to be grateful for. But I'm not in that place of counting my blessings. And I'm not in that place of seeing life through a lit, lens. I see it in a dark way. So this is what King David is basically saying. He's saying it is good to talk of your glory at night, but it is even more important to talk of your faith when life doesn't look so great, right? Then what do I need to do? Then I need to remind myself that everything is for the best. And I need to remind myself that we're on the way to light, right? That we're on the way to Jerusalem, that we're on the way to the Holy Temple, that everything is a step along the way. Everything is a stage along the history, my individual history and the collective history of our nation and of the whole world. So we can meditate on that for a moment. Hey, Tov leodot laHashem, Tov leodot laHashem, ulezamer leshimecha elyon. Tov leodot laHashem, Tov leodot laHashem, ulezamer leshimecha elyon. ולהגיד בבוקר חסדך, אמונתך בלילות. טוב להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להודות להשם, טוב להודות להשם, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות להשם, טוב להודות להשם, ולזמר לשמך עליון. איי להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. ולהגיד בבוקר חסדך, אמונתך בלילות. One more time. טוב להודות להשם, טוב להודות להשם, ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות להשם, טוב להודות להשם, ולזמר לשמך עליון. איי להגיד בבוקר בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. טוב להגיד בבוקר חסדך אמונתך בלילות. So Hod, actually, like the Kabbalists are debating between them. You know, like, so if we remember for a moment the Tree of Life picture, right? The scheme, right? So we have Keter on top, and then we have Chochma Bina Da'at, right? So what is Chochma? Chochma is wisdom, and Bina is internalization of the wisdom, right? I could be knowing all the Torah in the world, but I have no idea how what it means to me, right? That's why we say, Ten chalkenu b'toratecha, give me a part in the Torah. Not just that I should know all the Torah, but I should find my part in the Torah. I should find myself in the Torah, right? And then we have da'at, which is basically taking the knowledge, the wisdom that we're learning of the Torah from the Torah, and after we've internalized it, but yet after we have even internalized it and found how it belongs to me and where I am with it and where my fixing is in it, it's so hard to actually do the transformation, right? I just started a diet today. I just stopped smoking today. I just decided to never get angry today, right? I just decided I'm never going to be ever depressed again in my life, right? But then the diet stops by the middle of the day, right? Or whatever it is. The next day somebody aggravates me, I get angry, right? So to internalize it and to actually make it my own and to actually be able to transform my life and get closer to Hashem, right? I gave examples that are more materialistic, but we also are in charge here of our body, not of only of our soul, right? And I gave examples that more have to do with my connection with Hashem, because Rav Nachman says that the actual worst two sins in the world are anger and sadness, and they both derive from pride, because when I'm angry or sad, I'm basically telling Hashem, you don't know what you're doing. I know how it needs to look, right? I know what needs to be in the world, right? So I'm not saying that so that we should go through a guilt trip next time, God forbid, we get angry or get upset or get sad, right? Or get depressed. I'm just saying this, like there's two ways of going about it. There is the guilt trip way, which is not very useful, but it does come from the side of Gvura, right? But then there's the chesed way of, dealing with myself when I get angry and, or I don't feel like I'm serving Hashem to the best of my abilities, right? And that is to tell myself how I want to be, right? Is also to come to Hashem at that point and say, Hashem, I really don't want to be in this place of negative feelings. Please show me how this is, serving me to grow. Please show me how you want to fix me through this situation, how you want to show me what needs to be fixed through this situation, right? And then like in a way to make a list, those are the things that aggravate me. Those are the things that are my triggers. Those are the people that know, either the people who know how to trigger me or the, situations that I know that always trigger me, and they will always trigger me. Even if I'll meet someone new tomorrow, he'll trigger me at the exact same place because it's my trigger. And I need to work on those triggers, right? So I need to be prepared. My avodat Hashem in the world is to be prepared for that trigger to arrive in my life. So the next time it arrives in my life, I will act differently than I did last time. That's why the Mesilat Yesharim says, right? Like, do cheshbon nefesh in the evening before you go to sleep. Go through the events of the day and check yourself what happened today, right? And check yourself how you have spoken to that one, or how you would want to speak to that one tomorrow, or how you don't want to be triggered in the same ways again and again, right? So the Chokhmah and the Bina combine into Da'at. Da'at is actually that place where I become my new me, where I don't just, talk the talk, but I walk the talk, and, and I actually do it in life. I walk the walk, and I actually do it in life, right? I actually, I feel like, wow, I really have managed to say it differently this time. I really have managed to respond not in the same automatic way that I always respond to the same situations or similar situations, right? So we're looking at the scheme, right? So we have Keter, which is basically connected to Hashem on the highest level. How do I get connected to Hashem on the highest level? By first of all, it says when this trigger comes up in your life, what do? Take it to the base medrash, right? Open up a book, right? You can go to actually base medrash, but you can open up a book. We all have a book at home, right? Open up a holy sefer. Open up Sim Tehillim, open up whatever, Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, if you have your own words to talk to Hashem at that moment, wonderful. But if you don't, open up a book, inspire yourself, take yourself to the world of Beis Medrash, right? And allow that to take you back into the next stage, right? Just acquire some chokhmah. First of all, you want to be connected to Hashem, first of all, acquire some chokhmah. Not only on a chokhmah level, I sit in the Beis Medrash and I learn 24/7. Because I know many people who sit in the Beis Medrash and learn 24/7, and then they come to life and they're empty, right? So, but the idea of chokhmah is not that I sit and learn 24/7. The idea of chokhmah is that, when Yetzer Hara comes to me, I take my Yetzer Hara to the Beis Medrash and I tell my Yetzer Hara, let's sit down and talk about this now, right? And let me show you, that, there's a holy way of living, right? So, and then after I take a book, right, then some bina starts to sink into me, some understanding, some internalization. Oh, wow. And I'm telling you, every time I did this, mamish, you take the first book that comes into your hands on the shelf and it's talking exactly on what you're going through. I can promise you this. I've tried this a million times, right? Your mamish, Hashem will always talk to you through that sefer and something will open up that exactly what you needed to hear, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how you get the bina, right? And then hopefully with the chokhmah and the bina, you'll make a nice salad and that will flow into your heart, right? All of a sudden you'll be like, oh, okay, this is how I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is the answer to my disconnect from Hashem, to my disconnect from my soul, right? So, and then we have chesed and gvura, right? So basically all the midot below chesed and gvura are combined in one way of chesed and gvura. And chesed and gvura are the most fundamental of the midot, to understand all the other midot as well. And so we spoke about chesed, which derives very much from the place of what desire is, or where my soul is automatically. Automatically we all want to be good people. Automatically we all want to be on the chesed side. Instinctively we want to be there. Most of us, most of the time, our life is chesed, But then there's gevura. Gevura comes in two different concepts. One is the concept of really it's is making the boundaries in my life. But what we've been discussing over the last few classes is more the aspect of I want to make when I'm not instinctively in chesed, I want to integrate gvura into my life to be able to be chesedic again, right? When I'm not automatically serving Hashem, when I'm not bechesed serving Hashem, when I'm not serving Hashem from love, I want to serve Hashem from at least awe. If my love doesn't come about to help me serve Hashem, then at least I want to be able to integrate the gvura, the awe, into my life in order to be able to serve Hashem. But then there's the other aspect of gvura, which is to put boundaries. But that aspect somehow became the overly spoken about, right? It's my boundaries, right? How am I gonna, it's like as if I'm doing chesed 24/7 and I just need to protect myself with boundaries all the time, right? So yes, there are some people who are, busy, doing chesed 24/7, like Rebbetzin Machlis Aleh Shalom, or Avram Avinu, right? But even Avram Avinu, who was all about chesed, right? And when, and he, and he still felt like he needed to overcome, not that he felt that he needed to overcome, but he overcame himself at the most hardest moment for him to do a little bit more chesed, right? There's a beautiful story about Rebbetzin and Machlis, actually, about the Machlis family. Everybody knows who Machlises are here? Mm-hmm. They're the most amazing family. They had like a house, I don't know, a living room about this size with 100 people every Friday night, and 100 people every Shabbos lunch, and 100 people every, and sometimes more. It was like it would go into the yard, which wasn't their personal yard. It was like this, like this entrance to the house. But anyway, they like unbelievable people. And she left the world a few years ago. And but one of the most amazing stories about her, just to see how chesed is it's unbelievable what it does to our world, right? So there was this one guy who I think regularly used to come, or he came this one, I don't remember, but one Friday night he came, and the kids were just walking home from school, like 12 p.m. or something, and the kids were just walking in from school, and it's Friday, she's cooking for 100 people, and the kids are just walking from school, and she wants the 5 minutes to greet them with a big hug, and and whatever, right? And there's this Nebuch sitting there, and sitting on her nerves there, and it's like just like trying to nudge, and apparently he wants to be fed, and she's like in this balagan there, and she's like, what am I gonna, she's like, no, and I think her husband said, really, it's not the right time now, come back in a few hours, right? And or maybe he said to his wife, I don't remember, but anyway, the Rebbetzin said, no, he's here now, so we need to take care of him now, and guess what? They had this huge refrigerator. She went to the refrigerator. She opened up the refrigerator, and one of her 2-year-old infant got himself into the refrigerator.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So just like, when you want to say, this is not the right time for me to do chesed, think again.
Wow.
Yeah, this is not a story from 200 years ago, not from a book, not from anything. This is like straight firsthand, So, yeah. So it's like, in a way, everything that's happening in our lives is coming to serve us. And the question is, are you going to be connected to Hashem enough to see how it's coming to serve you? Right? So in that moment, you can use Gvura in two different ways. You can say, oh, I'm going to make my brown face. I'm going to tell this guy to come back in a few hours, right? Or I could say, no, I want to be, I don't have the instinctive love to give to this person right now, but I'm going to grab some love from the side of awe, from the side of Gvura, to do the right thing, even though I don't really want to, because it's the right thing to do. God forbid, hopefully I shouldn't do it because I should only remember this story and how this baby was saved. I should be, what I should develop in my heart and my consciousness is that I'm doing it for the right reason. It's like I might be inspired by this story at that moment, right? But what should eventually should be developed in my consciousness is that I want to do things for the right reason, for the altruistic reasons, right? So, but that's how Chesed and Gvura kind of have this dance in my life, of like how I do things for Chesed reasons and how I do things for Gvura reasons, right? And everything, all the midot, pull out from there, right? So Hod, some Kabbalists actually say that Hod belongs to Chesed, even though Hod is on the left, but and whenever it's on the left, it's Gvura, right? But so some Kabbalists say that Hod is actually belonging to Chesed, and some Kabbalists were saying over the generations that Hod actually belongs to Gvura, the way we read it. So I was like really meditating on it today, and I was really trying to think, because I didn't find more information about how, like, not yet, maybe by next week I'll come up with more information, or by next year, or whatever. But I was meditating on it, on like how it comes from Chesed and how it comes from Gvura, and I'll come back to it for in a minute. But first, I want to look at Hod a little more, a little more in depth, right? So what is Hod? Hod is basically humbleness blended with assertivity, right? So again, humbleness is a little more chesed, and assertivity is a little bit more gvura, right? So
are you saying assertive?
Yeah, assertiveness, yeah. So a person basically always needs to aspire to do what he believes is right in the world, right? And so on one hand, I have to be super humble, right? I need to always remember that maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe I don't know what it's all about, right? It's like I had this discussion this morning on WhatsApp and I responded quite strongly, right? And then I was like, okay, maybe I responded too strongly, and then this woman writes to me, actually the woman that I responded to, and I was like, maybe I hurt her feelings, maybe I responded too strongly. And then she wrote to me, like, thank you so much. She first sent this, heart sign, and I was like, well, maybe she's just trying to be nice, right? And and then she sends this message, thank you for what you said, it was right on the spot. And I was like, yeah, you're sure? You're not just trying to be nice, right? I was really praying that I didn't hurt your feelings, So she said, no, you were right on the spot. I was like, okay, thank you, Hashem, that I managed to, combine, live by the day of Hod, because this is exactly it, and it doesn't always come in the right blend, right? We tend to either be a little bit of a shmate versus a little bit, too harsh, right? And we just need to always pray, Hashem, let me have the exact blend of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I really need to believe, so what is assertiveness? Assertiveness is I really believe in something and I really want to take care of it and I really want to stand for whatever it is, the truth that I believe in, right? But how do I do it? In a humble way. Maybe the picture I see is completely wrong. Maybe I completely got it off, So I always have to hold on to both, these robes. And so if I'm too over humbled, right, Shlomo says, if I'm too over humbled, it's not real humbleness, right? Shlomo used to always tell me, I used to say, humbleness is not thinking that you're a nothing. Humbleness is knowing your value and still being humble over it. I think that's one of the most beautiful sentences I've ever heard in my life. It's remembering and knowing your value and still being humble of it. Remembering that you're beautiful because you're the son of a daughter of Hashem, right? Because Hashem put all this beauty in you. It's, it's being connected to the beauty of Hashem more than to my own beauty, right? And remember that everybody else is beautiful, right? Just like I'm beautiful, everybody else is beautiful, right? But remembering my beauty, and not thinking that, I have something to do with it necessarily, right? So he says, false humbleness is when I'm letting everybody step all over me and make me into a shmate. Says that's false humbleness. In that way, I cannot do anything, succeed to do anything in the world. Because in order to do something in the world, you need a little bit of a chutzpah, right? Like Rav Nachman says, you need holy chutzpah. But if my chutzpah is not enveloped in humbleness, right? Then it's taking away from its holiness, and it's taking away from my holiness. And that's Hod. That exact point of where I remember that I need to do what I need to do in the world, and I need to do it, remembering that I am beautiful, and Hashem gave me this particular opinion, this particular view of the world that I see, like Rav Nachman says, when you see a fixing needs to be done in the world, then Hashem gave you to do that fixing in the world. When you see that you need to say something to someone, then you came to this whole situation to say this to this someone. The question, then you have to ask yourself by Hilchot Musar, is it the right place? Do they have the ears to hear the Musar? And do I have the exact right words to say it? But first of all, you need to think about it. First of all, you need to wake up and say, oh, okay, Hashem, obviously you put us into this situation because we have a little fixing here to do, and I need to figure out the right word, maybe I won't even do it right this second. Maybe I'll go to sleep on it and come back and call them the next day or the next week and say, this and that situation happened, and I feel like, we need this little fixing to do between the two of us, right? I'll give you an example, right? This week, I was on this Zoom group, and everybody were really, really tired already, and it was a work group, and everybody was getting out of their patience already, and at some point one of the people said something to the other, and they misunderstood it, and they answered back, and they misunderstood it, and but then a whole discussion of the boundaries of our group, because it's a new work group, and a whole discussion of the boundaries of how we want to build this group, and what kind of a intonation and what kind of a vibe we want to put into our group came from this discussion of these two people who kind of got on each other's nerves, right? So it's like every situation brings about some kind of a light that can be taken out of it, right? So then the guy who was the first guy to hurt this other woman, right? He said, well, thanks to me, we got to discuss this, right? And this arrogance came out, like, well, thanks to me, we got to discuss this, right? So, so just like to see how, human situations come about, right? But, we were very grateful to him that he allowed us to discuss the boundaries of our group, But, but the question is his own fixing, where did he take it, right? So, so it's like this elegant, this very delicate, point between the saying the right thing and hushing up and, so it's the delicate point between the chutzpah and the humbleness that Hashem had created me for this moment, right? So there are people in the world who know how to organize their lives, and then there are people who live in a less organized way, right? Everything is like chaotic, right? So in order to organize our lives, we need some kind of assertiveness. We need some kind of chutzpah, a certain midah, a certain level of chutzpah. But too much chutzpah is also not good. So if you allow your people to make a shmata out of you, you're not going to get anywhere either, right? So you need to push yourself a little bit forward, right? You need to be able to say what you need, right? Because if you just sit there and you're like kind of like, okay, whatever they do, whatever they won't, because who am I to fix the world? God, you fix the world. I'm just going to wait for you to fix the world, But Hashem didn't bring us into the world just to wait for him to fix the world. He brought each one of us with our talents and with our beauty to put our input. Sometimes it's a small input, but we all have to keep searching for that input, right? Shlomo used to say, when you come to work, you don't expect to just sit at work and do nothing and still get paid. Well, some people do, but generally we know that if we want to get paid at the end of the month or not get fired by the following month, we need to do what we were hired to do, right? So he says Hashem gave us life, right? And why do we think, that we're just living here and by that we're doing what Hashem, put us to do in this world? We have to keep searching for what it is, the avodat Hashem, that we were put down to do here, right? In all our human interactions, and in all, sometimes it's smaller, sometimes it's bigger. Sometimes we need to, hibernate a little bit and, think what it is the next thing that we need to do in life, but for 5 minutes, for a day, for a year, whatever, in different contexts, different, but generally we have to always, look for that midat hod of what it is that I need to do and how I need to achieve it in the world, in a little bit of a more chutzpah and a little bit of a more pushing forward. So in a way, he says we're all waiting for Mashiach to come, and then the whole world will be organized, right? But then what does Hashem need us for, right? So then he says something else. He says there are people who think that Mashiach symbolizes free love, right? My wife, your wife, everything is together, right? How does that sound to you? Disgusting, right? Mm-hmm. How would you feel if the moon and the sun would say, would mix their hours, right, of operating the world? How does that sound? Perfect unification, right? Like ironically talking. But it's absurd, right? That's not the unity that we're looking for in the world. And it's not the organization it's not that kind of organizing in the world that will keep the world running, right? The world is running on the moon knowing its hours and the sun knowing its hours, right? So we need all kinds of boundaries in the world. So it's kind of ridiculous to think that a cat and a dog would mix up, or an apple and a flower would mix up, right? There has to be some kind of order in the world. Unity doesn't mean that there is no boundaries. If somebody will say, I love my friend so much that he can be with my wife, that's ridiculous, right? Or if I would say, I love you so much, so my house is yours whenever you want to use it, nobody would do that, right? So how would you feel? How would we feel if anybody would enter our home, at any time, right? And do that whatever they want. We're together, right? But that's not the unity that we're looking for, right? And also our children are my children, right? We were talking about our children before. They're my children. They're not the government's children. They're my children. And also my religion. My religion is only my religion, and no other religion is my religion, right? It's like there's a lot of talk in the world, this religion, that religion, right? All religions are beautiful, and every religion brought a certain beauty into the world. But Hashem had chosen me to become who I am, and Hashem had chosen this particular road to shine His beauty into my heart through Yiddishkeit, right? And that's why Yiddishkeit is, only Yiddishkeit is mine, right? It's not about this religion being beautiful or that religion being beautiful. It's not about me finding insights in other religions, even if there are beautiful insights in other religions. The question is, what is mine?
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Like if we're born, like you're saying that it's ours because we're born Jewish?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And that's like our tafkid in this world is to
do what we need to do in the world. Yeah. My father, Alav Shalom, had a beautiful he was a part of this organization, and he had a friend who was the head of the organization of like these Christians who were helping Jews. Okay. And they were very, very good friends. And at the time, I'm talking about the 80s. Okay. And at the time when my father was like the only one, working with this group of Christians who were helping Israel. And I don't know, maybe, at some point there were other people who took over that thing and it became very missionary and whatever, right? But at that time, it was like run by people who were really not missionary, right? But the whole world was really afraid of missionaries. Still we are afraid of missionaries. But at that time, people were like telling my father, why are you helping them? They're missionaries, this and that. My father said, we shall just see who's going to missionarize whom first, right? So, yeah, anyway, both children of this priest converted, and none of my father's children converted to any other religion. And but why am I telling you this whole story? Because this priest, he said at the time, he said, I really want to convert at some point, but he said, I'm not converting, because the truth is that if I do convert, what I'm doing in the world with all these Christians, I couldn't do as a Jew. My mission in the world is not to be a Jew. My mission in the world is to be a Christian priest, even if I a little bit less believe in Christianity at this point in my life, because of what I've learned about, whatever religions, Judaism, theology, etc. Right? So in a way, we all have, like for me, it was a great class about me being connected to my Judaism, just like he was so connected to his essence, his root of what he needed to do in the world through in being born a Christian. To me, it was a great lesson about how I need to be connected to my Judaism on a very deep level, on a very essential level, on a very creation level.
He's lucky. He knew exactly what he was supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Very clear to him.
Yes.
Wow, amazing.
Not all of us have that kind of clarity.
Yeah. So Shlomo says, imagine or suppose I decided to be universal, right? So therefore, I won't rest on Shabbos, but I'll rest on Sunday, right? And this year, I'll do either Christmas or Christmanuka, right? Or how do you say it? What, Christmaka? Hanukkah Christmas, right? Hanukkah Christmas, what do you call it, right? Like I'll this year I'll do Christmas, and next year I'll do Hanukkah, or this year I'll do both, right? It's like, so this kind of a person is actually not universal. He's lacking any kind of identity. He has no idea who he is. And they don't know where they begin and where they end. And it's actually very interesting. I watched this documentary of kids who were born to parents of two different religions. And it doesn't matter who the parents, were before, what's important is who they are when they're raising their children, right? So it's like, you see the kids who are born to parents who, actually when they married each other so many times, usually, they were lacking identity. Their Judaism and Christianity to the other parent was not so significant in their life. That's why they married them to begin with, because they didn't care that you're Jewish and I'm Christian, or you're Jewish and I'm Muslim, or whatever it is, right? And but then when the kids grow up, everybody's identity wakes up. Because when you have a child, you want the child to follow your footsteps. You want the child to follow your parents. The grandparents even wake up already by that point, and they were like, we want our child to know where they came from. It's a natural thing. That's how we're created. We want to follow up, right? So, and then the kids get into a real identity issue. And they feel very like they're really lacking ground in the world, like they're walking on air basically, and like they have no idea who they are, and it's very, very confusing to them psychologically. It was a very interesting documentary. I don't remember the name of it, but
the philosophy was to allow the children to choose. We'll do both. Like when I was growing up, we'll do both, and the child will choose which one they want to do.
Right.
Like that's the best path.
Right. But you confuse the child to a great extent that way.
Yeah.
Right. And in some religions, like for example, it's like in some cases the child is not this and not that. Like for example, if the child is born to a Jewish mother and an Arab father, then he'll be Jewish on the Jewish side and Arab on the Arab side, and everybody will be fighting over him. But it's even worse if it's the other way around. If the mother is Arab and the father is Jewish, then the child is not Jewish, is not Arab in his mother's family, and he's not Jewish in his father's family. So he's a nobody anywhere.
And on that note, I have to go.
Bye. Have a good day.
Come again. Thanks.
Good to see you. So what is unity and what is not? Unity means that on one hand, I live completely my personal identity, and on the other hand, I'm completely connected to other people and to the whole world. I know who I am, and yet I'm connected to the whole world. From the place of who I am, I'm connected to the world, right? I could be he could be my best friend, is, whatever, priest, sheikh, whatever, right? But I know who I am, I know who he is. And from that place of knowing that I'm Miriam and you're Leslie, we can communicate, right? If you don't show me who you really are, I can't communicate with you, right? It's like you got to know who I really am, and I got to know who I really am in order to be able to communicate with each other. So in order to communicate with the whole world, we just have to figure out who we really are, right? It's like I've gone to all these dozens of intercultural meetings, and then you have like all the spiritual leaders who come to these intercultural meetings, interfaith meetings, right? And then you have all these people who come who don't have, like, all the guests, like hundreds and many, sometimes thousands of guests who come with lack of religious and identity, right? So, and I've had many interesting conversations over the years with people. And, but it was interesting, when you have a conversation with a spiritual leader of a certain religion, right? And they know exactly who they are, right? Versus having a religious conversation or a theological conversation with somebody who doesn't have any religious identity, cultural identity, right? And then it's kind of really boring, right? Because it's all very much in the air.
It's superficial.
It's very, yeah.
What's the purpose of these interviews?
Different purposes, different, but yeah. It was interesting. One meeting we had was because there was one rabbi in one city, I'm not going to say, who actually gave out a ruling that there was a big problem in that city of Arab guys following up Jewish girls and babies coming out of it. Mm-hmm. And this rabbi in that particular city said that he forbids renting houses to Arabs in that city because it's a very it's a student town. There's a university there, and there are many students there. And you know what happens in a student environment, right? So this rabbi said he forbids people to rent out houses to Arabs. So this, promiscuous environment won't be happening there, and and this miserable reality will not be born, like what we discussed before. Children with no identity, right? So there was this one sheikh who got really, really upset at it. And from a next door town, and he invited this rabbi for an interfaith meeting, or for some kind of a mediation meeting, right? So he put out his claim, like, why are you putting war into the world? And, because of such, halacha rulings, there's war in the world and there's hatred in the world. And why can't we live like brothers and, and just live normally as neighbors and blah, 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 right? That whole claim. And then the rabbi said to him, he said, listen, do you want your teenagers to learn with my teenagers? So he says to him, no. He says, why? Says, because I want to teach my teenagers Islam, and I don't want them to learn about Judaism, and I want to give them the value of Islam, right? Said, fine. I like that, me too, right? So then he says to him, would you send your elementary kids to school with my elementary school kids in a Jewish school, right? Says, no. Why? Same reason. I want my kids to learn their history, their values, their religion, right? says to him, so up to what age would you send your kids with my kids into a Jewish school? Said maximum 3 maybe, right? Why? Because from the age of 3, they kind of start to develop their own view of the world, right? And to collect their own religious values and identity values, right? So he says that is exactly the reason why I don't want your students hanging out with my students, because in the end it brings, a lack of identity into the world. I want my people to marry my own people, just like you want your people to marry your own people, right? So after that was explained that way, the sheikh said, you know what? I love that answer. And I suggest that from now on, when we have issues like that, we go to the press together. And by us going to the press together, we'll bring shalom into the world.
Wow.
And a few weeks later, I got we were in the coordinating board of the, those meetings. And one day I got a phone call from this rabbi. I don't remember what was the next thing on the issue. And he says to me, they called me from this, I think it was Rush Bet or whatever it is, one of the big shows. They want to interview me about this thing. Do you have the number of the sheikh? So obviously I called, I gave him the number of the sheikh, and they coordinated, and they were online together. They were on that show together. And it, it was such a Kiddush Hashem, them being together on, bringing that into the world together to both our people, So that's I feel like that's very much, it's a part of Hod, because there's a lot, deeper concepts to Hod also, but it's a part of Hod. Knowing who I am on a very deep level. So assume I have a friend who's broke. And I think that I'm so connected to this friend that I want to be as broke as they are, right? But that's not the essence of life. He's broke and I'm not, right? Everybody is carrying their own essence. And yet I'm connected to my friend. I'm connected to their pain, right? But it doesn't mean that I need to be broke because I'm connected to their pain. I need to help them. I need to give them some money, but I don't need to become broke from connecting to their pain, right? It doesn't make sense that I should say, now I'm going to stop working because I want to feel what they're feeling, right? I am me and they're them, and everybody has their own fixing in the world. So what is an exiled Jew? An exiled Jew is somebody who is not connected to who they are. Exiled from who they are. And there's 2 levels to it. It could be that I'm totally, it could be that I'm totally engaged in, what's concerning me, and I don't care about the rest of the world. And it could be that I'm totally engaged with what's happening in the world, that I forget who I am, right? That I think that I'm going to bring peace into the world by forgetting who I am and blending into this globalization system of we're all together, all religions is one religion, all governments is one government, there's that mistake in the world too, right? So there's got to be balance. Okay, so now I want to skip over a bit because we don't have much time. Okay, so now I want to talk about another, aspect of Hod. So, what time is it? Oh, wow.
1:45.
So we mamish don't have much time. Okay, so we're just going to do this little thing. So Hod in the context of being connected to our prayer. Okay. So how much are we connected to our prayer when we hold a siddur? How much people are really praying from a true connection to Hashem? How much have we really poured our hearts to Hashem, at least once in our lives, right? From this deep, deep place, right? Not of this Hashem, give me, right? But from this deep place of Hashem, I really want to be connected to you, right? Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem. I really want to be connected to you. All I want in the world is to be connected to you. And Shlomo says, and tomorrow, right, is Lag BaOmer, is Hod Shebahod. So it's like this hiddenness within hiddenness, right? It's like, how much am I, like Shlomo used to say, the deepest is not when I tell someone I love them, but the deepest is when I tell them I love you so much and I wish I could love you more. And I wish I could show you more how much I love you. And I wish I would love, I want to love more. It's not enough to say I love, right? Because love is something so infinite, right? And where do we learn the beginning of love? Every time when we say V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, every time when we talk to Hashem about love, we spoke about this in length last time, remember? Every time we talk about love, we have to ask ourselves, what is love to me, right? Do I love this coffee? I love drinking this coffee, right? I don't love the coffee, right? Because love is I pour love on the people I love. I give myself to the people I love, right? The coffee loves me, right? In a way. So we have to really meditate on this concept of love, right? What is love to us in the world? So also with Hashem, when I talk to Hashem, right? Like, how do I ask myself, Hashem, do I really love you? Right? I really need to come from this place of Hashem. Am I lying to you? Am I lying to myself? Do I really love you? How many times have we really spoken to Hashem from this deep, deep place of really revealing all our secrets on the deepest level?
Doesn't he know them all already?
What?
Doesn't he know them all already?
He knows them. The question is, do we know them?
Oh, but he wants us to connect to him.
Right. It's like, women should understand this maybe a bit better, right? Because women say, it's like this joke that says, right? A woman comes to her husband and she says, you never tell me that you love me, right? Says, I told you 18 years ago. When it changes, I'll let you know, right? So it's like, right? It's like, how much you want to hear those words, right? And when you hear them and you don't feel they're from the deepest of the heart, it's even more painful, right? And you want to express that love just like you want it to be expressed to you, right? And it all starts by talking to Hashem about love at least twice a day, right? That's where we start fixing love. Every time we say Shema Yisrael, right? And we start integrating love into our system, fixing love in our hearts, and asking ourselves, so what is love in my life? How do I love Hashem? Do I want him to love me like the coffee loves me, right? Or do I want to be there for Hashem? And do I want to, and even before all the doing, on a feeling level. Just like that woman who wants to hear it again and again, and we want to say it again and again. We don't only want to hear it again and again, we want to say it again and again, right? Because something happens in the relationship. Yes, I love you, and yes, I know you love me, but we want to say it again and again because that's what makes the bond. The expressing of it is what makes the bond. When we don't express it, it doesn't matter how much we know it. It's on an Etz Hadat level. It's on a tree of knowledge level. It's not on an Etz Chaim level, not on a tree of life level. We want to live on a tree of life level all the time with Hashem and with the people around us.
Love is so complicated. It's complicated because we all have limitations on how much we can give love, how much we can receive love. You know, we are a product of our upbringing. What kind of love did we receive in our home? It's, what's interesting is that when I say the Shema, it's a soul thing that has nothing to do with the present life. It's something, I don't know, it's like that kind of a love, the love for Hashem is different than the love for people. I can't explain it. Love for people is so much more complicated.
Yeah, for like Hashem, it's like eternal. You know, yeah. But it's interesting that you say like about the Shema, because I'm always trying to figure out like, what does that mean? Like what does the Shema mean? So like so I don't know. I always have this vision of like looking at like the universe, like the galaxies to like the ball of Earth, and then what's inside the Earth. It's like there's no boundaries. But sometimes, like with people, like you love a person, but there's boundaries. Sometimes,
More like a wall.
It's not eternal.
It's a wall.
Yeah.
I would call it more a wall than boundaries. Right? There's some walls. We don't let ourselves completely flow. Like we say, Hashem la mabuli yashav vayeshev melech leolam. Like we talk about the rivers in the desert, how they're dry. But then one day when Mashiach comes, all of a sudden, or when the winter comes, all of a sudden the river like flows in a second, right? And people who like go there especially to see like this whole amount of water coming, in 1 second, right? So it's like we're saying this is how the light of Hashem comes into the world. This is how redemption comes into the world, like out of nowhere, right? So we also say that we want that kind of love to flow in the world, like Hashem la mabuli. We want Hashem to show his love in those quantities of water, like those quantities of water in the desert, right? So so we ask Hashem to express his love, right? Not to say I showed it to you 2,000 years ago, right? So then we say, okay, so what do I do to show Hashem my love, right? About Shema Yisrael, by the way, it says in Kabbalah, in Chassidus and Kabbalah, that the first part is we ask Hashem to reveal his light in the world. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Is we ask Hashem, you show the world the oneness. You put the oneness in our hearts. What kind of oneness? The oneness of the love and the awe. And the oneness of understanding that all good and bad is from one source. And we really believe that all bad comes from where all good comes from. So therefore we believe that also bad is good. Also, when we see lack of light, we want to integrate this faith, this feeling, not just faith, but feeling that all bad is also good. That's the only thing that brings serenity into our lives. That's the only thing that brings a certain feeling of calmness in our lives. Being connected to that feeling that Hashem is Echad, that all bad is bringing good into the world eventually too. That's our only hope. Yeah. That's the only thing that takes the dissonance and the anxiety of like feeling, oh my gosh, there's so much bad in the world. Are you really there, Hashem? Because if you're there, how can all this badness come to the world, right? So there's two ways. There's either this way of everything, all the bad is also from Hashem and he knows what he's doing, or asking Hashem every other minute, are you really there, right? And it's true that those words come into our head and into our mouth sometimes, and then we want to say at least, for 5 minutes, day, morning and night, we want to say, I really believe that all bad is coming from you and all is good in the world eventually, right? And the second part, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto L'Olam Va'ed, may your name be blessed in the world for eternity, it means that I want to be a part of bringing your light into the world. So there's like, I give you all the responsibility on one hand, but I also take responsibility in a very Hod way, in a very humble way. I take responsibility to fix the world, but I say it like Moshe Rabbeinu said it. Moshe Rabbeinu said, bring light into the world. And then like when Hashem said to him, you go and get them out of Egypt. So for a second, Moshe says, who am I? And what can I say? And I'm a stuttering person and I don't have, I'm not such a spokesman. And, I've never been on TV before, right? But Hashem says to him, don't worry, I'll give you the right words, right? So I come to Hashem every moment in my life when I'm interacting with the world, and I'm saying in that way, okay, Hashem, I'm a nobody. I'm a stuttering Moshe, what can I do in the world? Maybe I don't see my talents at all. Maybe I don't see what good I can bring into the world. Maybe I have no idea how to interact, not with my children, not with my husband, and not with the world, and not with anything and anybody. But you put the words in my mouth, right? You show me the way, and I want to be a part of bringing light into the world. I want to say the right words. I want to be bringing light into the world on smaller or bigger scale, So that's the Shema Yisrael, the sharing responsibility of Hashem. Hashem is completely in control, but yet He's giving us a measure of participants in recreating the world also. Yeah. Oy. So I'll just say one more concluding sentence. It says, like Hashem is so you said, doesn't He know, right? You stopped me at asking, doesn't Hashem know? Somebody said, doesn't Hashem know that we need to tell Him our secrets? So Hashem knows. The question is, do we want to tell Him our secrets, right? And how much we really want to tell Him our secrets. And also Hashem connects to us in two different ways. He talks to us, and He also tells us His secrets. Because what is Lag BaOmer? It's Hashem's secrets. Kabbalah is Hashem's secrets, right? And it says Mashiach will come when Kabbalah will be revealed into the world, right? When Chassidus Kabbalah will be revealed in the world. So this is Mamash our generation. Hashem's secrets. But not only on the level of really as much as it's spread out there today, but you talk to people and people feel like they hear Hashem's secrets, this V'ten chalkenu b'toratecha is very strong in this time, at least, and I feel it very strongly now, that so many people feel like they heard Hashem's word, personally to them, right? And there's a beautiful story about a man named Moshe. He was a water carrier, and he was very, very poor, about 200 years ago. He was very, very poor, and he used to bring the water to the shul every morning, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., before everybody would come to wash their hands. From the bucket, from the well, right? So, and not he didn't have a salary from the shul. He was just doing it as a mitzvah. But people knew that he had no money, so they would throw him a penny here and there, and at least he would bring something back home, right? But he was really, really, really poor. And one time he was like, Hashem, I cannot do this anymore. You got to give me one time 2,000 rubles so I can go and open a business and start living like a mensch, right? So one time he comes to shul, he's first there to bring the water, and he sees on the floor 2,000 rubles. The next day, right, he comes, he sees 2,000 rubles. So he's like, wow, he's besides himself, right? He's so exalted. He's so thrilled, right? He runs into the shul and he starts dancing and singing and thanking Hashem that, he heard his prayer. And he goes home and, and he brings a nice, basket of food home, and he's so happy. And in the evening, he comes again to bring the water to the shul for Ma'ariv, Mincha Ma'ariv, and he sees a commotion around the shul. And he says, what's happening? And they say to him, remember, like last month, this Avramela passed away, and his wife Hanala, with 11 children, thought that her husband was very rich, but turned out after he died that, as much as she thought he was rich with debts, not with, real commodities, right? So he owed money to the whole world, and we decided to help her out, and we collected 2,000 rubles for her to cover her debts and start her life again. So, and he realizes that he found the 2,000 rubles that were lost, that they collected. So he's so angry at Hashem. He goes home first, and he goes into the shul first. He throws a sitter, and he goes back into the home, and he covers his head under the pillow, and he just sobs for hours, right? And he says, Hashem, I never, ever want to open the sitter again in my life. I never want to talk to you. What kind of a cruel God are you, that in order to give me 2,000 rubles, you got to take it from this widow with 11 children? That's all you can come up with? I never want to be in touch with you again. So, and he cries and he cries, and then he says, all of a sudden, I heard this voice inside of me saying to me, Moishela, what happened to you? Your whole life you're serving Hashem. And now that you need Hashem the most, now you're turning away. You know what you got to do. This is not your 2,000 rubles. Go and give them back, right? He says, all of a sudden, I felt this joy inside my heart that was totally unexplainable. I felt like I heard God's voice, right? And I ran to the shul and I brought the money to them. And, and I felt like, I can't explain to you the measure of joy that filled my heart that was 1,000,000 times bigger than finding the 2,000 rubles in the morning, because I heard God's voice telling me what I needed to do. היה פעם אחת שאלתי בבית השם אבותיו אבקש אבותיו אבקש פעם אחת שאלתי בבית השם אבותיו אבקש אבותיו אבקש שבתי בבית השם כל ימי חיי אוי שבתי בבית השם כל ימי חיי ay da 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 ay da 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 ay da 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 אחת שאלתי בבית השם אבותיו אבקש אותיו אבקש שבתי בבית השם כל ימי חיי להודות לך זאת בנועם, השם הוא לבב כהרבה חלום. היי די 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 די, היי הו היי די 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 די, hey hi di hi di di.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's from the book Every Day is a Diamond, Kol Yom Yahalom, and it's available on my Facebook or contact me.
Is that
Take
your
care.
book?